Hello and welcome to Cope and Read. I read it so you don't have to. I'm Mac with some cheese, and today we are going to be reading the Hornsonhalos / Azhero document. Content warnings: sexual harassment, grooming, predatory behavior, violent threats, talks of school shootings, ableism, and homophobia. Lance is his IRL name, and I will be using it for the remainder of the doc due to him having multiple usernames. Hornsonhalos, Lance Aboigby, I'm not an artist, hornsonhaloshoh@gmail.com. Halo at Hornsonhalos. His Insta and TikTok, in case you don't know his ats. I address his doxing near the bottom of the doc. To add, if you've been a victim of his, please contact the Royal's Niece Twitter account. Introduction. I first discovered Lance on TikTok around the summer of 2023 and felt mildly uncomfortable with his comics. Not long after I discovered Lance, he posted an extremely homophobic comic, and I knew I had to speak on it due to its nasty messaging. After I posted my own response on Instagram, I also contacted Lance directly to speak. He acted childish the entire time and only replied to me in order to ask me to take down my response. I will get into a deeper explanation of this interaction during the Halos responses section. I said no, the conversation went nowhere. I blocked him for technically lying to me, and since then I had been given updates on his toxic behavior, including actual victims ever since. Sexually predatory behavior. Lance has a long history of inappropriate and downright nasty behavior with the women around him. This section compiles the convos that have been shared publicly to me. December 2025 update, it has been confirmed he has also groomed 2 minors into sexual relationships along with sexually assaulting a 19-year-old just this month. Sadly, her testimony had to be removed as she asked, but he did assault someone, making the situation with new possible victims that much more terrifying. Lance is 25 and his birthday is November 1st, 1999. This is important to distinguish the age differences between him and the girls/femmes he interacted with. Hornsonhalos, Kendrick Lamar, real. Lance, it's your 25th birthday. From one of his own posts for proof. Lance, respectful wanted evidence of you being pushy about the photo stuff like that. I don't have the photo of our conversations since they're on the iPhone I had. I'm not understanding why you're saying all this now after the fact. You just told him about our private convert. See more. Crying face emoji. I haven't been since here, dude. I just came back on the platform. I seen so much. I don't know for sure if you deleted any conversations about us or anything else. Trent was being respectful. See more. Hornsonhalos. I've been deleted our messages since we stopped talking, and it doesn't help that you made it seem like I was acting away and never resolved the issue. Last thing before I GTS, since I'm still collecting the needed information, once I stop talking to somebody, I delete everything and anything they send me and move on from them. That's why y'all are so easy to forget, since I only ever used pet names y'all like because called by me, so excuse me for being so good at non-attachment, sad face emoji, out of sight, out of mind. Also, Lance has admitted directly to deleting, quote, anything and everything, unquote, he can from people, so there is a clear reason why many of the victims struggle to find his account, messages, and whatever else he couldn't have deleted. This, in general, is really odd behavior. To keep this organized, we will go from earliest to newest accusations and why what he's done was wrong. 2017 to 2018. Hypnagogic Moon. I used to be friends with him on G+ when I was 14, 2017, and he was awful to me. He would comment on my posts of myself complimenting me in a weird way, like borderline flirting or mentioning my body, talking to a 14-year-old when he was 18, and he had a private Snapchat that me and my friends my age were on, where he would post full graphic porn or videos of women nude and be like, quote, wish that were me, unquote, quote-unquote, mood. There was a situation where I was friends with this one girl that was older than me as well and closer to him in age. And she bullied me, and he just dipped and said he didn't want to get involved because he liked her as an artist. Also, there were times me and my best friend were on call with him. We were 14, 15, so it was maybe 2017 or 2018, and he would self-deprecate and fish for compliments, and we would obviously try to comfort him. I have screenshots of the video call. Moon is one of Lance's very old friends from when he used G+, as they explain here. Lance was extremely inappropriate with them for their age gap, which was 4 years. They were also not the only underage individual in that chat, and while yes, Lance was only 18, he was still several years older than these people and should have understood what he was doing was inappropriate. Here's a screenshot from the call. I found this completely by accident, but I found an old screenshot from 2020 of Lance's old private Instagram. I would still be a minor at this time, but the point of it was me screen sharing and showing Jenna how pathetic he was just posting full porn. Snapchat, I couldn't get away with screenshotting BC, you know about Snap. Here's a screenshot of the Instagram. The images above are from calls they were into together to further prove that they were in fact in contact with him. The last image shows how little regard he had for the inappropriate things he regularly shared with them. So luckily for us, Moon was able to find some new photo evidence to further support their claims. Lance mentioned to you in a comment on Lance's post, plus, oh my dear, I want to hear it again so I can smile and give you hella compliments. Bless. Lance, girls with deep/raspy voices are okay hand emoji many times, like yes, please keep talking. An example of the types of comments he gave to Moon, who again here is 14. Google Plus, Daddy Gaster, she... it's cause of the fucking cucks you even feel this way. Your art style is magnificent and in ways I could never ever make at your age. I'm literally gonna cry at your improve when you turn 18 cause you literally have skills and talent I could only dream of. 3 heart emojis. Lance acknowledging that Moon is under 18. Also, no idea why he's even mentioning about when they turn 18, as that would be years away at that point. Extremely odd. Lance mentioned you in a comment on Lance's post, plus, oh my dear, send me your persona on Hangouts, milady, okay hand, sparkle emoji. Lance, alright, so I only have something especially separate for my close friends, but for the rest of y'all, I'll try to do a little Valentine's request, emphasis on try, and I'm not saying I'll do all. Comment below if you want a hug, smooch, or draw the OTP with me with your persona/OC, and I'll see what I can do. Okay hand emoji, arrow through heart emoji. Something related to Valentine's Day here, where he asked his friends, who were underage, about sending their persona so he can draw himself being very romantic with them. Again, really inappropriate to try to request of individuals he knows are much younger than him. Google Plus Gaster, it's okay. She's like a memist and stuff. I'm kind of all around with what I do. And most important, she's a girl. It's common for them to get more attention than guy would. So hush and stay pretty, Hannah. Greater than :0. Thought I'd add this one because it feels misogynistic in my eyes. Hush and stay pretty. No idea why that would be important for a 14-year-old artist. Lance, I want to have big curly hair. Girls get wet for that shit, SMH. And an example of him being casually sexual, knowing his minor friends are obviously going to see this. As a reminder, G+ no longer exists, so these were about all they could find. There were many comments, replies, and casual convos not recorded because the emails only show when Lance directly responded/pinged Moon. While I believe the victim's full testimony, I want this to be known when/if Lance responds again. A second victim has contacted me, and it turns out Lance was also flirtatious with this child as well, but also very sexual. From the messages I was shown, it seems either Lance thought the two were in some sort of relationship or really wanted to be in a relationship with them. As stated to me, they claimed to be 14 to Lance, who was 18 at the time, but was actually 12 years old. This is important to note because they sent explicit images to him, so allegedly Lance once held CSEM of a 12-year-old. It is very illegal if true. Ammo cat, proof of talking back in 2020 at least. Just him being a weird though. Okay, so it was almost all in 2018, but I thought I might have found his account a bit earlier in late 2017. I used to post art and other stuff on G+, and he obviously used to too. I commented a bunch on his stuff until he ended up commenting on a selfie calling me cute. Got into contact after through Snap, and as far as I remember, he asked me first, even though IMO, I was clearly a child. I genuinely think he did this stuff specifically on Snap because I do remember seeing him publicly give out a lot to girls. It all just continued with basic flirting between us, but I do remember having opened up a lot of stuff like being a grooming victim before this. His compliments towards me just ended up becoming more and more horny until he flat out just asked for nudes. ending up pressuring me until I said yes because of like the basic blue balls excuse guys use sometimes. I might have him on Snap, still let me look. Here is their testimony. They originally sent me it to AmoCat for reference, then sent the conversation to me. At the moment, they have not been able to find more overtly sexual conversations with Lance, but are still looking. For the meantime, they have given me images of him being very flirtatious with the minor. You, Lance, me, happy B-Day, my man, 4 heart emojis, LY, Lance, thank you, 3 heart emojis, love you too, lil mama, me, old BB, 3 heart emojis, smack. I don't want to be OMG, crying face emojis, dying face emojis, me, old heart, Lance, angry face emojis, letting me mourn my aging in peace, crying face emoji, me, crying heart, a bit old. You remember how old I am, Lance? You're like... Here's them congratulating him on his birthday and mentioning they recently turned 16. This is the latest image they own as Google+, where they mostly spoke no longer exists. First up are examples of Lance being very romantic and a tad sexual with the victim he believed to be 14 at the time. You, Lance, ILY2, you cute goofball, crying face purple heart. I feel like Luke, shit that we never talk. Lance, I'm sorry. Yo, I could talk to you all day. I just feel like you're busy talking with other cool folks, so I don't want to get in the way, you know? Talk to you. Me, no, I love talking to you, but I'm stupid and always forget. Example directly from Snapchat, but the rest of the images will be from the archive Snapchat had sent the victim of their convos on request. Saved, I feel called out. Saved, Mizu, hey, swirling heart emojis, King Cash 100, hello, swirling hearts, Mizu, ILYT, hearts, King Cash, hearts, ILY, sweetie. I'm like the whitest person IK, Mizu, Lumfao, King Cash 100, gotta love my vanilla babies, crying face vanilla ice cream cone, King Cash 100, you can't tell me that video not lit. Mizu Lamau, what? Mizu IDK, crying face emojis, King Cash 100. What's his problem? Skulls, crying face. King Cash 100, you look kissable and cuddly ASF. Mizu, I don't look too shitty. Mizu. And then redacted. Mizu Yi, King Cash 100, none wrong with that. King Cash 100, you're a snow bunny. King Cash 100, well... As obviously as it looks, there are extremely inappropriate ways to speak to someone 4 years younger than him. He even calls them a snow bunny, which is a fetishistic term reserved for women who pursue black men in romantic/sexual relationships. The next few images will be proof that this account directly belonged to Lance in case he tries and claims otherwise. 322, 23, 15, 48, UTC, 2024, 07, 12, 11, 4... This is a screenshot just showing when I added and then last modified something a bit my side of his Snap account. He couldn't have changed his username since back then because in all the screenshots, it's also showing my original one. In Cash 100, Lance 2018, 03, 22, 23, 15, 48 UTC, 2024, 07, 12, 11, 41, 25 UTC, added by username. So you guys know the account with the username KingCash100 in the Snapchat archives was in fact the Lance account from the original Snapchat image. And here are some screenshots of him. Want to note he's shirtless here and in his bathroom, not an appropriate video to send to someone much younger than him in my opinion. ILY2, Rainbow Sparkle Heart, Sparkle Rainbow. You 53 weeks ago, Lance Heart, and some Bitmojis. The last few images will be examples of Lance knowing and mentioning that he knows the minor's age. This is an important distinction in case Lance tries to claim he had no idea. Laughing face, heart, aw, King Cash 100, aw, you such a young little baby, hearts, Mizu, got 13, King Cash 100, you're only 14 now, yeah? I believe in you, baby, angry face, clapping hearts, Mizu, crying face, still not ready though, King Cash 100, OMG, you're still a young little baby, aw, crying face hearts, Mizu, oh god, I'm barely gonna go to like 7th grade, laughing crying emoji, King Cash 100, I'll be in college, so wish me good luck, smiling emoji. So they claim to be just now entering 7th grade, but 7th graders aren't usually 14, they're younger. Lance never picked up on or looked further into this. He just didn't care. Also, them going to 7th grade and him to college, gross. You 53 weeks ago, Lance hearts, me happy B-Day, my man, hearts, Lance, thank you, hearts, love you too, lil mama, BB, you're old, BB, hearts, Lance, I don't want to be OMG, crying face, dying face, me, old, hearts, Lance, angry faces, love me more in my aging in peace, crying face, laughing, crying heart, you're a bit old, you remember how old I am, Lance, you're like, this is from 2 years later, he never tried to stop or shut down his interactions with this minor, genuinely crazy. 2019. In December of 2023, Amo Cat came out about her experience on Lance in a string of Instagram stories where I believe they met in 2019. The story is long, so there will be a summary at the bottom if needed. I need to talk about @Hornsonhalos, previously known as Azhero, TW coercion, possibly questionable age gaps plus toxicity. Lance, aka Hornsonhalos / Azhero, used to be my best friend. We met on Discord, first red flag, and were instantly buddies. We were insanely close and would talk daily for hours about everything. But looking back at our friendship, it was toxic, unhealthy, and actually traumatizing. I feel that Lance is an unsafe person, and not just for the toxic comics that he had been regularly dragged on Twitter for. Lance has been coercive, inappropriate, and misogynistic at his worst moments that make it abundantly clear that his traumas and hypersexuality is actually hurting people behind the scenes. He posts about self-love, relationships advice, and wholesome shit, but the man needs therapy. Concern number 1, questionable age gaps. This is matter of personal opinion, but I feel that once you hit a certain threshold of being in your near mid-20s, trying to date 18, 19-year-olds is gross IMO. He was interested in a 19-year-old he met off of Threads mid this year despite being 23. He's currently 24 now. And he even agreed that it was off and he wouldn't do anything until they were 20. The relationship was super short-lived to my knowledge, one physical date and texting, because the 19-year-old was the one that ended it. NGL, if he had continued that relationship, he would have been cut off. But I still felt incredibly grossed out about that. It wasn't a deterrent in the first place. This wasn't the first time either. In 2021, he was talking to an 18-year-old and he was 22. According to him, they first met when he was 20, but to my knowledge, that didn't get to start knowing each other until she was 18. I told him that was really worrying morally wise. On both instances, he agreed it was not good, and yet he continues to do it. Concern number 2, inappropriate sexual behavior, TW coercion. He had been coercive. Back in 2019, there was an incident that nearly broke apart a friend group because Lance was pressuring a girl he was talking to expose herself on camera and succeeded in pressuring her. And although I condemned him, I thought he could redeem himself. But in 2021, he would also be inappropriate with me by pushing past my boundaries, which was incredibly triggering and made me break down, as I've had my own situations with coercion and blackmail with my ex. Concern number 3, overall toxicity. During our friendship, Lance has talked to several femmes and women, but to my knowledge, most of it was toxic. That also paired with several misogynistic comments, ranting about situationships while calling women bitches and saying all they got to do is, quote, sit there and be pretty, unquote. It was actually the first time I've seen him so toxic, bragging about being a homewrecker or talking to multiple women while complaining about the lack of depth in those relationships, but apparently during that time, he was like that consistently. Regardless, I held on because I knew his story and I wanted him to get better, but it just ended up harming me more. I abandoned my boundaries for loyalty and overlooked the very fact that Lance isn't okay. He did many things that are not okay. He isn't just some laid-back shit talker who posts little crazy comics. Summary is that there are potentially 3 victims here. One girl he coerced into stripping on camera even though she initially didn't want to. Another girl he apparently tried to date when he was 22 but she was 18, but they had actually met when she was 16. Lance claims they didn't really know each other till she was 18, but we have no evidence of his claims. And Amo, who said Lance did similar sexually inappropriate things with her, knowing she had direct trauma with it. Lance did also respond to this directly, confirming most of it, but I will be adding that to the, quote, Halo's response, unquote, section for organization purposes. The second victim to come forward also knew Lance in 2019, when she was 17 and him 19. To start, Lance added me on Discord late 2018/early 2019. We got along really well and our friendship grew very fast. I was 17 at the time in my senior year of HS and he was 19. He was super flirty and I couldn't help but love the attention he gave me. I was super self-conscious and had really low self-esteem, so I was unfortunately weak to that behavior and never stood up for my own worth. To make a long story short, he confessed to me Valentine's of 2019, but I told him I'm not sure a relationship is. Then the moment that really snapped the fake reality happened. He randomly started speaking about his dick. He said he took some pics and asked if I wanted to see. I said no, I had a feeling he would send them. I remember the way my heart was racing and I exited Discord right as the images started flooding in. I was shaking and confused as hell. A few minutes later, I checked my phone again and he deleted them and thought it was funny. I confronted him, I have the screenshot. What happens after is him throwing a pity party that left me apologizing. Azhero, redacted, no, you better not send them. Azhero, look, eyes, anime face emojis, Lamau, redacted, Lance, Azhero, yes, skulls, my PFP has been a mood all week. Redacted, you're not slick, I asked you to not send them. Azhero, I don't think you did, you was just nervous. But I won't do it again for you, skulls. Redacted, but why do it when I asked you not to? Azhero, oh, sorry, you're right. Essentially, Lance wanted a relationship and she did not. Even though she didn't, he brought up sexual topics, and on one day in particular, even though she repeatedly asked him not to, Lance spammed her with naked photos of himself. As obvious as it is in the screenshot, he does not take her uncomfortably seriously and tries to play it off. She even states that after this, he made her feel bad and apologized to him. 2023. This person wanted to be known that they realized while with Lance that he wanted no relationship with them outside of sexual and never tried to connect with them unless they sent him photos or sexted him. They felt manipulated and used for this reason. About horns. As of currently typing, I've already blocked Lance and screenshotted some things of what he was like towards me. I was a model for his NSFW artwork, Roshio Starman. From his account, you had to be like in your 20s, and I was like, hey, why not? So I asked him in DM if I could be a model. I verified my age and everything and took some shots. This went on for some time, and I realized that I was never used for any of them. If I tried to send more equals no response. Make small talk equals no response. Reply to story equals excuses. It made me see, open eyes, and find that I was only used for sexual gratification. Like my body was only for him to jerk off to, and once he's satisfied, he throws me away. He'll degrade me and manipulate me, practically lie to my face, saying he's had other messages and quote-unquote work, and why he hadn't been so responsive towards me. After reading the receipt stories and multiple people coming forward, it made me realize I'm doing the right thing and not try to even contact him ever again, because no one deserves that. No one. I feel so gross knowing I was a model for someone I thought cared about me. Roshio Starman. Yes, Papa, I'll do my very best. Replying, I know you will, so don't disappoint me. Hi, Papa, I miss you. Hi. I've been busy and my DMs have been chaotic this week. It's alright, I was scared, crying face emoji. Yeah, I have not been keeping up with my DMs like I used to. I'm suffering from cramps. I'm gonna be a bit selfish tonight, so I need you to take care of me. But, period. It's out now, you're responsible for this dick. Okay, Papa. Thank you, sweetheart. This one in particular is just gross. I know he'd most likely make the excuse that they were quote-unquote into it, but he pushed someone clearly in pain to spend the time to send him sexual photos anyways. 2024, first up is Say, someone who believed Lance was her close friend and in turn let him push her into things she was originally uncomfortable with. Sayats, hello, my name is Say. I'm a victim of this individual, Hornsonhalos. I am a 19YF and he is a 24/24 5YM. My experience with him was traumatic, something I feel disgusted for and never will be the same from. I first met him with the Amo cat situation and decided to comfort him, which started my interactions, and he looked on my profile and said I was pretty. I replied in thank you, and he brought up kinks when we were talking about our interests. My most traumatic experience was when me and him was having a serious conversation about he constantly ignores me when I do not give him what he wants, and I told him I wasn't comfortable with it. He said he doesn't care to my face, and said that the only thing I can do to help him is cater to his sexual needs. I tried to reason with him that I was not his plaything, then he started being sexual and started to sulking a bit. He would breed me and other stuff. I didn't know what to do. When I told him to stop, he's like, "You have a CNC kink, it's fine." As Say explains, the main reason they came into contact was to comfort him after Amo Cat came out about her experiences with Lance. Lance almost immediately uses this condolence to be sexual with her, and then over time pushing her more and more into sexual things she wasn't comfortable with. Here, cause them results on there was all shit I never heard of Tawag. Why, I low-key couldn't because of the cam, plus I was in very hot water. Mosquitoes been getting my ass. And to be fair, your contact name is Babyman, so haha. Mind you yeen send shit yet, you must think I'm playing or some. Perfect, take some selfies, now, quickly, redacted, even better. 'Tis foggy, would better wipe that camera lens. Finna change your contact name to Tony the Tiger. What? What do you mean, what? You always flaking out. It fits you. A few examples to show just how pushy as a constant he was with Say. At hornsonhalos@gmail.com, that's just the truth. So all I was here for was your personal pleasure, yeah? Shit was cute when it was flirty and sexual, but the most you know is that I'm an artist and I got a brother. You didn't have no interest in getting to know me truly. I ain't say all that, but there was no attempt to bond with me. You was just trying to be someone for me that I could rely on, but it ain't feel that way, and that's fine. I never cared for you being an artist. I genuinely wanted to know you, but you being like this. I'm older than you, and you got a lot of shit to prioritize in terms of your mental health and school or family. Focus on that. Skull, you were saying this, but still want to interact with me. This in particular is the worst. When Say asks him about the call out, Lance admits she was nothing more than a sexual object to him. He claims she didn't, quote, try to connect, unquote, but not only did she, but he was the one who started the sexual relationship and only really cared about just that. The grossest bit being him mentioning how wide apart in age the two of them are. Ironic how it didn't matter when they were sexual, but it matters now that she calls him out on his behavior. To add, I was informed after the fact that Say was actually 17 when the two of them interacted. Say told me she was older, so she most likely, I'm giving him a generous benefit of the doubt here, told him the same thing. So if you see this, Lance, delete any NSFW images you have of her if they're still there. They are illegal to own. Next up is another girl, 19. I don't know they met, but from what I was told, it was pretty recent at the time of our conversation in 2024. First off, I'm 19, and I had an encounter with him, giving him the benefit of the doubt. Please don't text him, I don't want him to know I'm saying this about him to cause more shit, but I feel horrible. When I first started talking to him, I thought everything was sweet and dandy until he started treating me as if I was some toy. I fell into his trap and got love blinded thinking everything was okay and didn't know I was getting used. He asked for pictures of my body and such and got a girlfriend 2 weeks after love bombing and telling me to send him pictures of my body and there'll be quote-unquote punishments or consequences. I didn't know he had this much dirt on him, but since I had a huge heart, I have him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, we were friends, but he's extremely rude and toxic, and I got blinded by his acts because I was in love with him. He's incredibly toxic, a manipulator, and very weird, but I got tangled up with his shit that I excused all of it. Before showing off the images, I want to warn you all again that these are incredibly sexual convos, and Lance regularly speaks about harming this girl as his kink. Halo Star, the rest is in your hands. I honestly don't care how this day goes, TS all bombed anyway, but I respect it. Sad face emoji. The rest will have the top censored due to them containing his personal phone number. Redacted. Lance, I'm so proud of my good little girl. You've matured very well. Other person. That warmed my heart so much, WTH. I didn't die, sad face emoji. Lance, yes, you have, princess. That's what girls do. And no one's going to have the access to you except for me. You're all mine, understood? Other girl, yes, sir, I hear you. Lance, say it so you mean it. Now make a video with your face and titties showing and tell me that Papa owns you and you'll always be my loyal slut and know where we stand. Sad frowning face emoji. I can't wait to blackmail you if we ever fall out. YK, I own you, right? Again, I only agreed and acted this way because if I would have said no, things would have went lefts. Then, weeks after this, he got someone else to talk to, and he just completely used me. It's very obvious this girl was purely a toy in his mind, and one he often spoke about harming, blackmailing, and owning. While these might have been jokes, the girl was terrified when she spoke to me and genuinely took every word of his seriously, going along with his behavior because she was lonely. And yes, him telling a teenager, quote, you've matured very well, unquote, is extremely creepy, as he would only know that if she had shown or spoken about herself before she was 18. Even if he hadn't been shown before of age photos, it's still a gross thing to say to a barely legal teen. Last for now, would a girl who claimed to have directly modeled for Lance. Redacted at Royal Sniz. I was one of the girls whom he interacted with. I was reached out to by him. We, quote, became friends, unquote. At least I thought so, lol. Nope. He would only contact me for his sexual gratification. I was told I'd be a, quote, fruit girl, unquote, of his. Girls with different bodies named after fruits. He asked for multiple nude reference photos, would demand them if I said no. He tried to get me to write his username on my butt, but I didn't want to do that. So he stopped messaging me. He 100% would leave me on red if I tried having a normal conversation with him. He also wanted me to call him pet names. He was also extremely rude when getting my photos, telling me the posing is bad, retake it, better face, etc. While due to her deleting the conversations, there's no direct evidence for this claim. There is a post of Lance that confirm he did in fact want women to model for him, so this is likely true. At Roshio Starman, models for reference requested, must be 20 plus, verify with ID or date of birth, all body sizes are accepted, suitable for poses / angles, selfies, photo and videos are all accepted, DM for any other questions, and his signature. The post in question from his NSFW Insta. Recent but important update to the allegations under this year, we have a new person. I was told this is all the information they have on themselves at the moment, but they will try to grab more if possible, but I do think it's still enough evidence to make this claim. Lance asked for a nude photo of a 17-year-old. Want to know something funny? The screenshot here. This N-word was talking to me sexually when I was 17. What? Halo's Lance. Photo gallery of him. Halo's boring. I was 16 and a lot of them. IDK, how 17 is any different though. Halo, main. Skull emojis. How TF, I'm a look actively saying, quote, let me see how you looked when you was 15, 16, unquote. As clear as day, Lance knew this individual was 17, was sent photos of them when they were actually 16, and when finding that part out, he didn't even try to drop them as a contact. He was only worried about how it would possibly make him look. Now, this would be the distribution of CP and is illegal, but I don't know if this is enough to contact the authorities, so I'm going to wait till they come back with more conversation evidence and such before I contact them, but I do plan to try the moment I can. 2025. This gal's confession travels from Lance being very rude to downright manipulative, creepy, and fully on sexual harassment. Her screen caps are in an odd order, but this is due to her being forced to reveal the severity of their relationship because of Lance trying to publicly defame her statements on him, so please keep that in mind. He pressured me to send videos on IG as, quote, save in chat, unquote, instead of the replay or view ones, so I did, and I regret it badly. IDK if he still has access to those now that I've blocked him, or if I need to unblock him and delete everything. He unfortunately still has access to those photos. Most I can suggest is that you directly ask him to delete them if he has them saved and such. That's okay, don't feel bad, she's a super weirdo. Not to mention, one of our last convos before I blocked him was me saying I'm on a weight loss medication due to me not being able to lose weight for over a decade. He asked me, quote, have you tried actually working out and eating right, unquote, while knowing I had an ED in the past. Lance Aboigby, Hornsonhalos, IDK, I feel like MG weight has always been hard for me to control until I had my eating disorder. I probably have PCOS or something. Maybe I should eat as if I have diabetes. I hear that helps people with PCOS. Lance, potentially. Do you work out consistently and have a healthy diet? Her, don't analyze me, bro. Lance, sounds like a no. Her, sounds like it's my life, not hers. Lance, fortunately. Her, oh. Lance, alas, do what you want. Her, that's insane. That's crazy knowing the comics he'd made about EDs. I believe this needed to be shared in particular because Lance has made many comics about women's bodies, trying to uplift them and speak about how eating disorders can really harm women, but when someone who's had trouble losing weight takes medication to help it, it's, quote, oh, you're not trying hard enough, unquote, kind of behavior. That is hypocritical and mean. To add, this is from May 12th of this year, just 2 months ago. Lance, you look pretty. Her, my parents really like barbells, but I don't like them that much. Lance, more cleavage please, praying hands emoji, I want a nut tonight. Her, photo, Lance, I was about to say you can't miss it, crying face emoji. Hold on, keep it saved in chat so I can look back at them. Her, honestly, keeping it saved in chat freaks me out. I've had people almost leak things even though my... Lance, save that in chat, baby. You got my attention. Her, Lance, show me what a dairy mutt can do to keep her master's attention. Don't disappoint me either. YK better than that. Her, For what exactly? Lance, barking only. Her, excuse me? Lance, oh, I thought I had 30 minutes to use you. Got ahead of myself. Her, brother, you should really preface it each time. YK? Lance, example. Her, do you want to do / are you okay with / is XYZ the vibe? Rin, give me some introduction. Damn. Barking only, talking face emojis. That's how you sound, buddy. Lance, okay, I'm being educated. Quote, I'm being educated, unquote. Remember, he's 5 years older than this person and has been with many different women. He shouldn't be this ignorant about boundaries. Lance, can you write come for princess in your titties? Her, no writing. Greater than colon, open parentheses. I feel really bad after I do it. I've found out. Lance, sigh. Can you say it then? Her, don't say sigh, colon, open parenthesis. Her, ugh, that's so embarrassing. When you're not actually here. Lance, okay. Blowing nose emoji. I just want to come for my baby. Her, Lance, suck your titties for me, baby. Her, I can't. I told you. Greater than colon, open parenthesis. Lance, I want to see. Greater than colon T. I can't. Physically, I cannot. Lance, sigh, it's okay. I personally like seeing you bounce your titties for me. Additional examples this time of him directly pushing their boundaries and not really caring if they're uncomfortable or want privacy, as well as trying to make them feel bad for not wanting to do certain sexual activities. Lance has since responded to this victim in particular on his Insta stories where he tried to claim there were no moments of him being pushy, inappropriate, or harassing. Of course, he never actually proves this, and just shows a few instances of the two of them being sexual. It's obvious he doesn't understand how consent works because one-time consent is not consent for every interaction afterwards. It's continuous and should be repeatedly asked for, especially when days or weeks pass. Lance, say the damn name, you airhead. Her, no, I'm gatekeeping. I just assume you talk in simple terms. Lance, oh, you thought I cared to watch that? Her, no, but you cared to ask. Lance, asking about gatekeeping a public show on TV. The fuck is wrong, WU? Her, unserious. Lance, change the subject. Her, you started it. Lance, I said change the subject. Her, okay, why'd you get so pissy so easily? Lance, minion gif. I hate to break it to you, but I wasn't pissed off at all. How? Her, your text tonality is quite aggressive. Yick. Lance, I can text any way I want. That's the beauty of words. Her, I didn't say you couldn't. Lance, you can't tell me what to do regardless. Her, didn't say that either. Lance, asking these rhetorical questions, what's the conclusion to this conversation? Lance, is this a statement or a question? Her, it's a question but not a rhetorical one. Lance, oh, okay. Her, I don't like when you insult me. Lance, I don't like when you annoy me. You gotta work on that. Her, I'm pretty sure you do it on purpose. Lance, do what on purpose? Her, flaccid face emoji. Lance, oh, I thought we agreed you are. Her, sure, when we're talking sexually. Lance, okay, I'll refrain from stating facts outside of sexual activity. Her, it's not a fact. Lance, so what, it's only true when it's in a sexual setting. So here we have a non-sexual conversation between the two. Lance here is being extremely demanding and forceful and tells the victim to do what he wants repeatedly the moment he doesn't get his way. She also asks him to not insult her, and his response point blank is, quote, well, you like it, unquote. Telling her for her that she likes this, she states yes, but only sometimes in a sexual setting only. He then stated that he'll, quote, refrain from stating facts outside of sexual activity, unquote, meaning he does actually believe the girl he's talking to be stupid. Extremely rude and mean behavior for no reason. Lance, arch up for me. Her, no. Lance, shut up and do it if you're wanna see my dick, you dumb slave. Her, no, it's too much work for barely a rewards. I'm gauging my options. Lance, taking too long for your own benefit. Her, if I ask in what are you relating this message to, you will call me stupid, so I will not ask. Lance, at least, yick. Is that genuinely an issue for a woman like you? Her, what does that mean? Lance, can't even answer the question. Her, I'm not talking to you, tin. Lance, so just barking and woofs? Her, placid face emoji. You know, I don't always like being degraded that way and talked to like that. Lance, I know, baby. Her, it's not up to me to fix you. Lance, oh really? Then stop talking and show off your titties so I can praise you like the pretty dog you are. Her, no, apologize. Lance, make it quick if it's what you want. Lance, I don't do that TBH. Maybe if I was a bitch, but you're the female dog in our dynamic. Another conversation where, again, she is telling him no and to apologize for insulting her. He replied literally exclaiming that he, quote, doesn't do that, unquote, which is pretty concerning with the context of the other victims' stories, along with the fact he acts like only, quote unquote, bitches apologize, then calls her one, most likely as an insult. Her, what? I just had a stroke. No, it's not. Not all my life is revolved around sex. Lance, I feel like the barking you did for me last time really solidified that you like being treated like a dog. And yet another example of him making assumptions about what the woman wanted instead of just asking. This is not okay. The latest victim has come forward, this time about Lance giving them an STI without their knowledge. From what I was told, the two met up in late December of 2025 and slept together. The victim didn't find out till she was literally in another country that something was clearly wrong and went to a gynecologist only to test positive for HPV. This deviated her as Lance was the only man she hadn't used protection for. She had even gotten tested previously, so she knew he was the only person this could have come from. Everything as he ghosted me after getting what he wanted, but he gave me HPV, multiple strains. I had a pap smear after my BC was removed, and he was the only person I had unprotected sexy with. Though I know technically you can get it even with protection. I was bruised for over a week after our encounter because he was so rough and had terrible pelvic pain after. I assumed it was because of a non-sexual condition I have, but got confirmation after finally seeing a gynecologist recently. // I don't know if he has a brother, but I do know he was homeless when speaking to another victim in November of last year, and she stated he was in Chicago at the time. Victim, Okay, so he definitely lied to me. He said he just came back to Chicago on the 23rd of December. Yerk. We were talking for longer, but I didn't meet and have sex until Christmas Day. Redacted. I don't have the report. Long story, had a mental breakdown, redacted in Vietnam, but I do have an email from the doctor. Actually, I lied. The report is included. It's just mostly Vietnamese. Screenshot of the report here. And another screenshot of the report showing HPV genotypes 16, 18, 6, and 11 all not detected. But types 31, 33, 35, 39, 45, 51, 52, 56, 58, 59, 66, and 68 all detected. And report here, but the page is blank. Screenshot, Hornsonhalos, your history, 1 total transactions, $35. Cash App transaction between the two to further prove they interacted. Lance will most likely try to make excuses for this, but this is just exhausting. He is an active danger to the women around him, and I worry for every girl he still speaks to him that doesn't know. Testimonials. These are claims made against him that have little to no evidence. Many women have come forward to me. The reason why I didn't show them publicly was because they couldn't confirm the events due to it either being too long ago or blocking him out of fear. So while I personally trust these victims as a lot of their stories run similar, please take their claims with a grain of salt and only use the claims above me with evidence when speaking about him online. I just want their stories shared. Testimony 1. I'm so relieved I'm not the only one that has fallen victim to him. He's a very disturbing individual, and he tried to get under me when I was 18. If I didn't give him what he wanted, he would ghost me for days and then come back as it never ended. He was so manipulative, and it was an endless cycle. I was freshly 18 as well. He lied to me about his age as well. At the time we were conversing, he told me he was 20. I'm very glad I cut him off before knowing all of this. I told him I turned 18 not long before, and I'm a high school senior. After that, he told me he was 20 and in college. The last thing I recall that I took screenshots of was right when he tried to gaslight me into staying, quote-unquote, with him and trying to convince me that I needed him. It was very creepy. If true, this would be one of the worst cases because this would mean he absolutely knew that their age gap was huge. They spoke not that long ago in 2024, making the age gap in years 6 or 7 and them being freshly 18. Testimony 2. Also called out on it. It's a repetitive behavior. I'm asking because I thought I was his friend and he's told me he's romantically attracted to me, but now I feel like I should cut him off entirely. It feels like I've discovered something awful. Author, you should. He's literally in contact with another woman, Rin, and being sexual with them. There's no telling how many others he's quote-unquote dating. Ugh. IDKY, I was so dumb to think he was telling the truth. How he's a good person, just wanting to make art. I joked around saying he probably has other women he talks to, seriously joking, and he just told me I'm the only one. Obviously a lie. Not only that, all these posts about him that I'm just now discovering, wow. Also, thank you. I would like to chat, close parenthesis. I feel like I need it. Sorry, I don't mean to rant, but like, wow. And to think he's confessed to it all yet doesn't change. He has posted before asking for models and for art references. I sent him a picture, not a nude, and complimented me, and I liked it. That eventually led to sending him one quote-unquote nude, I was clothed, and he demanded I send more. He wanted his name written on my butt. I never did that. He demanded I call him romantic names. He made me feel uncomfortable, and once cussed me out for saying I wasn't okay with it anymore. He only messaged me when he wanted a nude, but I never sent. This one in particular is pretty sad. Seeing all the other girls and femmes I've spoken to, it should be obvious that Lance did, in fact, speak to many other women while also claiming to this one that he wasn't. Testimony 3. Hi, sorry I had battled if I should talk about this or not and forgot. But the short end of it he had did this to me too in your latest post. It was the drawing trophies one. After I sent them, he just kind of went quiet, and so did I, and reading all that just as wow. I admired his art, not what he drew, but still. It's upsetting that people do this. Sorry for the dumping and taking so long. Another example of him not really caring for or respecting these women. Testimony 4. He was well aware of my sexual trauma, redacted, etc., and then stopped talking to me. I'm glad he stopped talking to me, BC, after I felt so gross, but to know he did this to other people makes me feel bad. Author, wait, is it okay to ask what exactly he did? Like, was he sexual with you? Her, he was very sexual. Author, I can show you all his accounts if you want to see if it's still there. Of course he was, I'm sorry. This user in particular was around 17 when they met and Lance 1920, as it was not long before COVID hit. Just like all the ones before, he was very sexual with them and then ghosted them when bored. The age gap wasn't large, but they believed he was much closer in age, so obviously they wouldn't have been okay with this otherwise. It's extremely strange how all of these people have very similar stories. He seemed kind and wanted to know them, only to then push them away after getting a sexual gratification. It doesn't help that most all were teenagers, some barely 18, and he much older, and several also being fans, meaning he was directly taking advantage of their admiration of him. For those who just want to call him a quote-unquote sex pest even after reading everything above, remember that coercion isn't consent. And that's exactly what he did with several women and girls. He pressured and pushed them into weirdly rapey and violent roleplay, pressured them to send photos, and would get mad if they weren't exactly to his liking, and treated them as sexual objects. He even admitted he thought of their vulnerable images as trophies. This is sexual harassment no matter how he tries to spin it. A man like that should not have a platform, especially when he uses that exact platform to constantly beg women to interact and DM him. He has a following of 200K on his Instagram and TikTok. He has immense power over these girls, and the fear many of them had when speaking to me should be proof enough that they know he has power over them and are afraid of what he might do if he finds out. Especially the girls who were under 18, even if the age gap wasn't massive, even if he isn't a pedophile, he is still a creep that doesn't understand boundaries and doesn't treat women and girls like people. He should be ashamed. I'm adding these in last minute because it's been weighing on me for a while now, and I feel much worse holding on to these even if it turns out they're not connected to Lance. So, about a year ago, I was contacted by a user who stated that they had a very weird interaction with someone they believed to be Lance, as apparently this user shared some of Lance's Instagram posts and said that they were his own. And I really mean they genuinely believed it was him. I think I'm gonna frame this. Our future rape babies are gonna look back on this and laugh. Alana, did you know what rape is? Komaida, no. Alana, forcing someone into sex. Komaida, my friend said that it's what two people do when they love each other very much. Alana, yeah, no. Komaida, oh, well, I would never force anything on you. Alana, yeah, okay. Komaida, redacted image. So is that a no? Alana, it is a huge no. Komaida, why? Alana, because I said no. Komaida, IDC, send them or else. Swirling GIF, you want to send me thigh pics so bad. Let's VC. Missed call, a minute, today at 8:17 p.m. Komaida, today at 8:17 p.m. A screenshot from the coffin of Andy and Lele. Komaida, rapes. Alana, placid face emoji. That's it. Komaida, yeah, were you expecting not to get raped? Kills. Alana, perplexed face emoji. Komaida, heh, now what? Hey, Alana, go KYS. Komaida, dead men tell no tales. These messages on their own are very concerning, of course, because it's the screenshot of at least 30 different photos of women/girls that is the most worrying here. Also at the top of the folder, we're even more folders, which I believe is where the actual nude photos were stored, but I can't be sure. I asked for the images he had sent within the server they were in, but apparently they had been kicked from it after informing the owner of this guy's behavior. Grizzy003, Alana, hey, I need to report someone. At first he said, can I rape you? The guy claimed he would remove the individual, but instead only kicked the gal who reported him. I did also try to contact this Grizzy person as well, but was immediately blocked after mentioning Hornsonhalos. I felt like I had hit a dead end, so I asked a few of Lance's previous victims if they recognized any of the photos, and actually got a reply from one where she even showed me the exact blanket the photo was taken on. Other person, yeah, mine are in there. Erg. Author, what? Which ones? Her. Redacted. This one. Author, holy shit, no way. Her. Smiley face emoji. I remember that exact photo I sent, and that blanket is def mine. Author, can you send a picture of the... Yes, this was also the girl who turned out to be 17, too, making this whole situation all the more worrying. And also, no, the image is not a nude. None of them were just very sensual, which is still very concerning. The user who also sent me the initial evidence has since deleted both their Discord and Instagram account. I want to reiterate that there is little evidence that connects this person to Lance. The reason this has been added is because holding on to potential criminal evidence would be stupid of me. There is a chance that there is a man with possible CP in his hands that he is just throwing around without the knowledge or consent of the women within the photos. If you have ever been sexual with Lance and have sent him sensual photos, please contact this email and I will privately show the uncensored version for you to determine if you're on there. I hope to get to the bottom of this. Violent behavior. For some reason, Lance has a childish way of responding to criticism, and that includes serious accusations. When I first called him out on Instagram late last year, Lance threw a fit in his stories. He insulted everyone who came forward against him, called them names, threatened to beat everyone up, and then threatened to punch me in the face. Twice, actually. This is a very poor way to respond to anything, but to something so serious, it only makes me believe the claims more and trust his own words less. Hornsonhalos, arrow pointing down to his Instagram stories. The highlight in question is here. He has not deleted it and probably will never plan to, as he genuinely believes acting like an angry child is a normal thing to do. The highlight is long though, so I will directly link to the parts where he threatens me. Link violent threats. It doesn't stop there though. Like I said, he also threatens to hurt everyone in his Insta story, and he has threatened people within his comics too. In the comic itself, I don't know y'all outside this app, and even if I did, I'd probably punch you in the mouth if you came up to me just to press me about this dumb social media bullshit. The first being in a response to backlash, telling people he's gonna hurt them seems to be all he knows how to do in response. Hey, aren't you that guy that made a school shooter OC in comic? Bang! This one's even worse than the last. He tries to claim at the end of the comic that this didn't actually happen, so it doesn't matter, but Lance fails to understand that he's a real person who actually harmed people, and seeing as he's directly threatened me, he can't hide behind that whole "it's just a comic" bullcrap, as he does want to harm others. Also, drawing yourself brutally killing someone as a response to harmless criticism isn't normal. This next part isn't exactly violent per se, but I still think it's harassment and abuse of his large platform. See, when Lance is called out, he oftentimes searches out for or finds accounts pretty easily, then responds negatively, but sometimes he then directs his audience to harass these people, even if they're children. I posted this 10 minutes ago, and you don't even follow me, crying emoji, your pogo stickin' my meat sword rin at cooler jadend. Let's get at sad ASMF _99 to 700. They've got some pretty good content and definitely need the more recognition. Checkmark emoji. Halo is a freak. Redacted lines all over the screenshot. The last one is from my own story where I censored it for him. He did not do this himself. As shown above, he regularly puts very small users on blast the moment they dislike any of his content, even if they're just calling him cheesy. And while he's not directly saying, you guys should harass this person, he is very much alluding to this and doesn't even care that several were straight up children. The meat pogo stick joke is just out of line, man. That kid's age was in the bio he shows himself. Remember, he has a following of 200k and has been over 50k for 3 years now. This is purely an abuse of power on his part. He's allowed to respond to criticism, but he couldn't have easily hid their users, and it wasn't like he replied to them earnestly either, he simply insulted them. So this quote-unquote interaction, as you will, with Lance was not something I discovered myself, but rather was informed about by others. During Lance's second major response to me on Instagram, he shared a string of Insta stories that allied him to handling a gun, being able to kill with said weapon, and that people shouldn't mess with him. In the background of one image was many bullets he supposedly owned, and in another, horse and headshots, paper target with many bullet holes in it. While again, this is not him directly claiming to want to take my life, the fact he posted these whilst complaining about me did in fact feel targeted and strange. Lance's side account. Around a month or so ago, direct dating being mid-2026, Lance dropped this tweet informing his Twitter audience that he had a new account for his more quote-unquote personal tweets. Halo. Seems smarter to leave this account for art-only posts when I'm ready to go off private again, so I'll just tweet on @Halos over Angels when I want to think out loud, but I'm waiting on this shorty to make this PFP for me. I decided at first not to speak on it, as there wasn't really much on this account of note besides personal venting, but over time the things he would spiel became more violent and grotesque over time. I blocked the account in annoyance, but followers of mine contacted me about these same tweets, as well as new ones, so I believe it's important I add these here. Be warned, they are both violent and sexually predatory most of the time. Halos over Aang. I love branding, always been a fun activity to have people write what I want on their body. Halo over Aang. Raising bitches into mutts, I'm a great dog trainer. Halos over N. Her life is literally in the palm of my hands. Laughing crying emoji. She'd do anything for me. Halos over N. More bodies, more victims. Halos over Aang. I got a bitch that'll kill herself if I told her to. This is what I live for. As you can probably tell, as time passes, Lance becomes more abrasive and open about how he thinks of women, even pretty plainly referring to them as his victims and admitting that he could potentially take their lives / make them take their own. Halos over N. She's good. N-word. Tired face emoji. I promise you these women are all smart individuals that can think and act for themselves, G. They ain't weak bitches like you that are only good for playing victim and making sob stories for emotional shock value like a goofy. This one in particular puts blame onto his previous victims, as he claims they are, quote, playing victim, unquote, and, quote, making up sob stories, unquote. Halos over Aang. Unfortunately, this page is getting flack because people think I'm deadass stalking these internet bitches. Tired face emoji. Yick how easy it is to check someone's page and see where they live. N-words be tagging their location in their posts all the time. That shit is not hard, good lord. Hashtag retard maxing. This one is about his most recent reply. Yes, his 4th / 5th time spouting the same nonsense and putting little to no blame on himself, where he accidentally revealed stalking his quote-unquote haters' accounts, finding where they lived, their families, lots of personal information. Apparently to him, there's nothing weird about it, and he refers to everyone uncomfortable with this behavior as the R slur. Remarkable. Unless he deletes his alt, I will unfortunately come back periodically with updates. His comics. This section is to address the worst of his comics and the controversy surrounding them. While most aren't as serious as the claims above, I do think it's important people know why even his comic work is full of malice, hypocrisy, and ignorance. Any comic that is a direct response to backlash will instead be in the, quote, Halos response, unquote, section below this one to keep things in order. Beer Ships comic. Enjoying two characters engaging with each other. Aw, they're so gay for each other. What? They're not even being visibly intimate. It doesn't matter to me. If I want to force a ship between two people I see together, I'll do it. VC I can. Starting with the most infamous one, we have one person enjoying fandom and another person wanting to ship the said characters together. They are not canon, so from Lance's perspective, it must be quote-unquote forced shipping, which of course is a fundamental misunderstanding of shipping. All shipping is non-canon, that's why they ship them? Because they want to see them together, so this is a silly argument to make. Don't agree with my forced ship, then I'll just assume you're homophobic. On the next slide, Lance even recognized that people would see his perspectives as homophobic and tried to paint the shipper in a bad light for this reason. You don't see an issue in shipping these people? Siblings, kids, or literal enemies? Pro shipper. No, and they're fictional, so who cares? Don't be weird, let people like what they like. He then compares the shipping of same-sex characters to that of literal incest and frames the shipper in question as someone who would like both. Intent or not, the only message anyone got from this comic is that Lance believes all non-canon shipping, especially queer shipping, as pro-fiction. He literally sees shipping people of the same sex as bad as shipping people related or other immoral relationships such as pedophilia. Queer Ship Comics Part 2. If you don't know, you can Google name X name and see NSFW fan art / fanfics of said characters. The most toxic shipping fandom starter pack, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Haikyuu, Harry Potter, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Rick and Morty, so on and so forth. Now ask yourself why you're in these fandoms that are so disliked, and it trails back to their obnoxious fanbase of weird-ass fanboys, fangirls, and pro-shippers. Let's talk about it the right way if you don't have selective vision. I believe this comic is supposed to be a further explanation on his opinion, but I promise you it's more or less repeating the same thing. His framing in the very first slide in itself is really silly. Quote, ask yourself why you're in these fandoms that are so disliked, as if people have a choice in what media they enjoy. All fandoms have toxic parts to their fan base, but they are not to blame for the actions of toxic people, so this interpretation is weird. The jab at NSFW content here is silly. Not only has Lance drawn NSFW of fictional characters, but there's also nothing wrong with this as long as both characters are adults. He should know this, he's done it himself. People will ship any duo, trio, group, team, or rivalry regardless of any canonical hints of romantic / sexual attraction. Yeah, they've all been shipped amongst each other. Yes, they will, and that's perfectly okay as long as none of them are related or pedophilic. This image is ironic too, as MLP, Monster High, Adventure Time, and Sailor Moon have canon queer characters. He literally chose whatever Google gave him without understanding many of these shows have queer characters or creators. Many creators in general have also stated that they have no problem with shipping. Now, there's no issue with kids, minors being shipped respectfully, but my issue are the people that over-sexualize them in their fan art / fanfics and defend it by saying it's fiction, quote, why does it matter, unquote, etc. Do you see the problem here? It's not a MLM / WLW thing. They're all kids, and IDC, if you're a minor too, that shouldn't justify you romanticizing or sexualizing children. You wouldn't want people IRL trying to rom / sex pair you with your friends or others unprovoked. Do you have any? Here he says he has no issue with it, but then immediately says, quote unquote, romanticizing children is wrong. Like, which is it then? Is shipping teens okay or not? There's a huge difference between sex and romance, and he knows that, but will still added it here thinking no one would notice. You're not a damn pro shipper for drawing two characters you like holding hands or kissing. He also randomly tries to compare fictional characters to real people. They are not even remotely the same. For the BKDK fans, I support the growth of Bakugo and the close friendship he has with Deku, but they are not lovers. Please stop romanticizing and sexualizing minors with your weak-ass think pieces. This again is just his opinion, but he's framing it as anyone who disagrees is a pro shipper. There's nothing wrong with shipping friends, and yes, that includes characters that weren't always friends. This is not even remotely close to shipping anything pedophilic, and there's him using the word romanticizing again. Drawing teenager characters holding hands is perfectly okay and not immoral in any way. If I haven't mentioned a specific issue, don't bitch about it in my comments. Instead, be useful and make your own post to help spread awareness. Only if you're not scared to do it. Otherwise, STFU. This part in particular is really funny when you have the context of my own post response, because I did respond exactly like he says is okay here, and you know what he asked me to do in DMs? Take it down. Halo, so what I'm hearing is that you're gonna keep it up. Heard you. Please, I'm not trying to read paragraphs all day, I understand. Author, I said that in my very first message. I came to you in hopes I could get you to understand. I mean, yeah, I've dealt with similar. I just had to move on. Unfortunately, it's all you can do. Halo, then you can take down the comic and move on like I'm about to do. Author, again, as I said, it's there to inform people XD. I can update it, but I didn't come to chat in order to get my post down. You had already... For reference, he asked this after I already told him no, by the way. He doesn't like taking no for an answer. He also never took down his own post, and he still has, to this day, holds his opinion. I have one last piece of evidence, though, to further prove his hypocrisy. Remember when you and Rachel played 7 Minutes in Heaven? You were so red I thought you turned her into a baked filet. Don't mention this to Carrie, please. Lance's own art where he ships two straight characters who are minors. Not only is this hypocritical, he's making a sexual joke here and shipping two characters wildly apart in age. Darwin being 12 and in middle school, and Rachel being in high school. Lance's rules for thee and not for me. School shooter comic. I love being a wizard, even when they try to make me lose hope. I'll rid this world of all evil with my wand. Die, monsters, die! That's the entire joke. A kid supposedly gets bullied and then kills everyone in the end. There's no lesson about gun safety, nor morals about how this isn't something children should resort to doing if they're being bullied. It's a short comic he made for fun. Even worse, he actually tries to paint the killer as the victim and that his violent actions are just. School shooter comic part 2. What are you apologizing for? You did nothing wrong. Sorry for stealing your kill. I'll make it up to you later after our new mission. Hey, what mission? To be continued. Long story short, the shooter befriends and goes on quote-unquote adventures with a serial killer. That again is the joke. This is just one of at least 10 different comics of these two characters killing and maiming random people. These comics don't exist as any kind of message, just to be edgy. The backlash behind these comics is for that exact reason. A lot of people believe the comics were insensitive to a real issue many people face today, and that Lance claiming to care about sensitive topics and people's mental health, then promoting this kind of behavior is toxic and hypocritical. Self-sabotage comic. Yay, building blocks is so fun with you. Sorry, I built towers with other people before and they always knocked it down. I figured that I'd do it first before you got the chance to do it. I'm not building blocks with you anymore. This isn't fun. Oh, okay. The comic is way longer than this, but to summarize, one character self-sabotages, hence the title, and then when the other character asks why, they explain that they had experienced years of people hurting them and breaking what they built, so now they do it themselves before others get the chance to do so. They then, after explaining, knock it down again due to habit, and the other person essentially leaves them. The backlash from this comic is most likely due to the lack of nuance here. Dropping someone after they explain to you their issues pretty plainly can be an example of toxic behavior. Friendships take time to grow, and people who have been in abusive relationships struggle more than others. While you don't have to befriend someone with that kind of baggage, the way the comic is framed implies this is the correct and only response to someone self-sabotaging, implying that those kinds of people don't deserve relationships when it's much more complicated than that. That's also why I never cared for his comics personally. Topics such as these can't be tied neatly into a little bow. Relationships are complex and each one is different, and what might be okay for some might be a deal breaker for others. But his comics usually don't have this kind of nuance, and in turn, this upset the folks reading it. But not you, comic. So you ignored me all day because you missed me? Yes. Well, I chose not to communicate because I didn't want to bother you or come off clingy/annoying, so not talking to you at all was the healthiest option. It's always good to be direct and communicative with others instead of assuming and self-sabotaging a good thing you have with someone you care about. Except for you, I'm cutting you off today. What? More or less the same as the other comic. A character explains the reasons behind their trauma and the other character leaves them. I won't be repeating myself as you all already know why this comic upset other people. I would like to note though that Lance himself participates in ghosting people like all the time. It's silly that he knows how this can make others sad but keeps doing it anyway. Like his father comic. I have a memory when I was younger. I remember making a vow to myself saying I never hurt a woman the way he had hurt my mother. So do you think you've lived by that vow you made for myself all those years ago? Name redacted? No, I haven't. And do you feel like you're turning into your father these days? Yes. As clear as day, this is Lance directly admitting to believing he is a violent abuser like his father. While there isn't much to go off of here, he has described his father as physically violent, manipulative, and a danger to women in other comics. Lance claiming he is no different is extremely concerning and only adds to the list of reasons why he shouldn't have a platform and should stay away from women. I've heard it before and I want to state it that quote-unquote coming clean about your actions or behavior does not make you a good person, nor does it absolve you of your past actions. While it is the first step towards improvement, if you never actually break that cycle of abuse, then admittance just becomes guiltiness and nothing else. This is my issue with Lance. This post is almost a year old, but a few of the victims came forward after this comic was posted, proving to me that he hasn't improved or even started to change. His most recent response to me on Twitter proves that as well. Nude trophies comic. There was definitely a point in time where I used to collect nudes for myself like trophies. Sometimes it gets very repetitive, other times it'll always be satisfying to earn. Man, this ain't fun anymore. Ha! I need more. I threw them all away. I have to be better than this. It's pretty easy to understand why this comic was received poorly by some. Lance is again admitting to treating women like sexual objects. It obviously is not normal to request nude photos of possibly up to 100 women, and only proves that he doesn't view women as anything other than something to be sexual with. This wasn't the only reason the comic was disliked, though. Best fan sign to rate HS or HOAs on their ass or titties get a free drawing on me. I'm doubling down as a confirmation that I'm dead ass. I'll probably regret this later, and it gives me a reason to draw, so we all win. These screen caps come from his 18+ account on Instagram weeks after his nudes comic was posted. As clear as day, he's directly asking for nude/lewd photos in exchange for art, which is technically prostitution as they receive something in return for sexual favors. This just means his entire comic was a lie. He hasn't stopped, nor is he even attempting to. He's not even trying to get to know these women as he claims in the comic that he did. He basically lied to thousands of people. Halo's harem comic. Crazy, I really am a womanizing bastard. Not much to show for this one. He just admits that when he was younger, he wanted a harem of women that did everything/anything he wanted. He plays it off as a joke, but treating women as sexual objects isn't funny or cute, it's just gross. He also straight up admits to being a womanizer. Puppy play comic. I don't even remember how old I was when she died. I know I was young as shit. I still think about her all the time. Shit's crazy. Would you say that her passing is also a result in forming the puppy play kink you currently have? Don't play dumb. You've noticed a decent amount of women you've mingled with love to act like dogs, and you never failed to entertain them. Personally, I don't believe this for 1 minute. While it's not impossible for a coping mechanism to creep up like that, that is no excuse to treat women like animals instead of people. If he had just stated it was a fetish and didn't try to excuse it, maybe some folks wouldn't have been so creeped out by it. And act as their owner when you've noticed those dog-like mannerisms too. Like, again, this is weird as hell. What even is a dog-like mannerism? Them being teenagers barely out of high school, so to you, their innocence looks like, quote, pet-like, unquote? Lance, is that it? Because it sure looks like it by how many are really young. But I gotta leave these strays alone too. They deserve better owners. Again, not funny or cute, just misogynistic. Homewrecker comic. I used to like talking to women who cheat on their boyfriends. I can fix that. Toxic homewrecker. Y'all are capable of finding genuine true love out there, just not with people like me. THW. Another comic where Lance admits to being a horrible person and proudly states this too. There wasn't exactly quote-unquote backlash behind this one, but rather just people pointing out that he then shouldn't have a platform, especially one where he actively looks for women to be sexual with on a constant basis. This is also good to have here, so we're clear that, again, Lance is a bad person, and there is no evidence of this man trying to change, just of him admitting over and over again that he's a bad person. NSFW Artist Comic. My precious creation, I'll cherish you forever and keep you safe. Yeah, that belongs to us now. My child! We'll be taking that, yoink! Dumbass, don't YK what Rule 34 is. This is bound to happen. Don't worry, we might age them up, so it's no big deal. Just be grateful you're getting attention. Also, there is a huge difference between making your own OCs or characters for an NSFW setting versus sexualizing real people or fictional kids show characters in an NSFW setting. Game characters too. Hope this helps if you can read. So this comic in particular was shown to me by a follower because, ironically, Halo has heavily sexualized characters from kids shows himself. I've already shown the minors he sexualized, but he has also drawn similar works of the adult women within kids shows too. And here is an NSFW comic from Fairly Odd Parents, and from Amazing World of Gumball, and I think we get the point. Not only does he call them all MILFs, but he also exaggerates their feminine features, bust and butt areas, to the extreme. This is yet another example as to why, even if you say follow him for his comics, Lance doesn't even practice what he preaches. If we should dislike these types of groups by Lance's own words, then we should dislike him too, no? Rashio Starman, artist, founder of 5-Star Tit Tea Cafe, minors DNI, 18 to 21 plus only. This was also on his adult Insta account, by the way. Queer Ship's The Remake comic. enjoying two characters engaging with each other. That's such a cute couple. I love how gay they are for each other. Really, I don't see it. They aren't even being intimate. What's the harm in shipping? It's all fictional, so it's not harming anyone IRL. If I think two people look like a cute couple, I'm going to ship them together, so I don't care. What are you, homophobic? You must hate same-sex couples if you're that bothered by a harmless ship. Typical cishet. This is an obvious remake of Lance's original homophobic comic. Instead of painting queer folks as predators, he's instead painting the group as oppressing the poor innocent cishets into shipping gayness where it, quote, doesn't belong, unquote. Because people like you are the reason that people turn homophobic and can't enjoy fandoms due to toxic fanatics like you. Probably the worst page from the comic, the supposed/assumed straight character blames the queer person for homophobia, essentially telling queer shippers that if people are homophobic, they themselves are at fault for the bigotry they experience. This, of course, is a heinous thing to say, as there is no excuse in the world that could justify homophobia, and if someone sees a queer ship they don't like and decides to hate an entire group of millions of people because of it, it's on them, not the LGBT community. It's not ridiculous to say that. Most of all, y'all truly glorify sexualities like a trend or aesthetic, then treat the straight ships like a taboo. Gay and straight ships can coexist normally. Not as bad as the other page, but Lance is still trying to imply straight people are being oppressed by queer folks within fandom. I won't deny that there are extreme people in the fandom that exist, but they are not the majority, and queer people as a whole especially shouldn't be blamed for the actions of that small group. That small group also obviously does not and never had held the same power straight creators have. I already went over this when I addressed the first comic of this nature, but a lot of queer content is actually ripped out of the media by studio executives to appease homophobic people. The most recent example being in 2025 with the movie Ello, which was originally going to have queer themes. I just can't believe I have to say this, straight people are not oppressed. The entirety of the fandom world isn't treating your straight ships as taboo. Stop playing victim to excuse bigotry. I will add that there was some feedback to the folks critiquing the comic by claiming that the two characters, quote, reconcile in the end, unquote, but this simply isn't true. Yeah, some people can be very passionate with queer representation. It can look very obnoxious in other people's eyes when it's being rubbed in their face a lot. The only thing that happens is the blue character sees the pink character's point, in turn agreeing with their homophobic statements. It was very clear from the get-go, just look at how he drew blue versus pink's facial expressions, that Lance wants the audience to agree with the bigoted statements. This is barely any nuance here. Taylor Lee, the implication that they're being creepy because they said they are a cute gay couple. Retweeting the comic. This tweet says it exactly. Age check comic. Age check that, bro. People do not play about pedophilia, dude. Dead ass. Why would I need to? She looks grown and 80% of their page is just ass and tits. I love you too much to see you catch a case and become a victim to cancel culture. Age check that now. I was informed of this comic's existence, and this is just pathetically gross. For one, the brown guy in particular doesn't ever imply that he thinks it's pedophilia or nasty to speak to someone who could be underage, but rather that other people do. And two, again, he doesn't care about the girl here who could become a potential victim of grooming, just that his male friend could become a, quote, victim of cancel culture, unquote. Right, because the only reason people aren't groomer is because they'd be canceled. Sure, Lance. I don't know, man. 18 is the new 17 these days, so be careful. I personally feel as if this is Lance directly speaking to the audience here, as this comic was created after he first got called out for sexting with barely legal girls while being in his mid-20s. He doesn't see an issue, but believes that people who do are, quote, taking away the girl's agency, unquote. But at the same time, neither character here is giving a single thought to how the girl could feel, just worried about themselves getting caught. Minors DNI comic. Disclaimer, Hornsonhalos is a SFW account free for any and all people to follow and read my comics. My NSFW account is Roshio Starman. That's for more suggestive artwork. Adding this comic because not only is this post ironic due to the fact he's directly interested sexually with minors, but also because Lance's account isn't SFW. I've seen minors as young as 13 interacting with his posts while he constantly talks about sex. Also telling minors to DNI, but then directly tagging your public NSFW account, and a series of comics on his SFW page with NSFW themes. 13-year-olds shouldn't be engaging with this kind of content. No one under 18 should be, especially because many of these stories are about his direct sexual experiences. He's a grown-ass man. He should not be speaking to minors about how much sex he has. This doesn't help that in his comics about his sex life, he pretty much admits to leading girls on to use them for sex. Gross. If there are any comics I have missed you'd like to hear the reasons behind its backlash, feel free to contact the email attached to this document. Halo's response. This section exists because of just how often Lance responds to anything and everything said about him. I will not be addressing every single response as it would go on forever, but I will start with the most serious and work down from there. Response to Amocat. Hornsonhalos. In response to everything Amonat said, once again, I do sincerely apologize to her for all the trouble and trauma I've caused throughout our friendship, as my actions, mindset, and emotions created more damage than good. I wasn't a good friend to you, nor was I the person you needed in your life, and I understand what I've said and done can't be forgiven, so I respect you and your decisions 100% with no hate harbored. I hope you find peace in your heart and soul, and I wish you the best in everything you do. As for the relationship I had in 2021, I knew of them when I was 20, though personal events had me occupied, and we started talking when I was 21 and they were 18, which doesn't look well on my part, and I take full accountability for that since I'm aware how immoral that comes off and had no valid reason talking to them, eventually cutting them off completely and letting them be. TW coercion. And the events of my behavior back in 2019, a old friend and I were being sexual with each other through the phone, and in the moment, I was being too aggressive and ruined the whole interaction by being forceful and assertive, which upset her and made her uncomfortable, leading to her telling our friends and me being confronted, later apologizing and taking accountability for my fuck-up. Her and I rekindled as friends a while after that, though we later fell out again due to tension in the friendship and left it at that. TW coercion. Almanat also being a victim to that was due to me being high and putting her in a very uncomfortable position due to my own sexual behavior after realizing I have an, quote, apology kink, unquote, which I instantly apologized for in that moment as I saw how much it triggered and upset her, telling her I wouldn't put her in a position like that again after apologizing to her once more. For once, Lance here actually fully apologizes for his actions and admits that what he did was wrong. While I do feel as if he's still trying to water down and make excuses for the things he did, at the very least he is owning up to having harmed women. Response to Amonat, Part 2. Why did she bring it to the internet? That's what I thought to myself. Why didn't she just talk it out with me? She literally had my number. That's what I thought to myself. It's selfish to say, but I wish she just came to me to talk everything out. All the times we fell out and made up the last time we spoke, I feel like I just didn't reach out for enough. That's asking far too much, but I'll wish her well. This second response is honestly repulsive. It's as if her reason completely flew over his head. He legitimately tries to claim within the response that he believes she, quote, always had a grudge, unquote, or something, when Amo very clearly stated that she came forward because she doesn't think someone like Lance should have a large platform. She stated clearly that she tried to be his friend, but he was repeatedly misogynistic for years and could no longer take it. Amo did also see this comic and was extremely uncomfortable, replying that she did not give him permission to share their personal interactions, something she never shared when coming forward about him BTW and wanted him to stop. Unfortunately, this is only the beginning. Response to Amocat 3. I can finally crash out, so let me cut to the chase. Almanat, yik, we got history, so please do me a favor and bring up your male relationships prior to mine, since you left out how shit went down with William, Hanif, and Cam especially. We both know how terrible Cam was, so it helped give context to what a controlling and abusive relationship really looks like compared to how you've painted me out to be with this narrative you gave to social media. And to any women/femmes who've gone to Amonat to address how I've been abusive, sexually harassing you, or coerced you into doing anything you aren't comfortable with, you're absolutely free to expose me and drop screenshots, but please post it in the full context, please, praying hands emoji. Not only would it allow everyone to have the full context of our conversations, but it'd LMK where and what else I've also done wrong if I didn't communicate or give proper reassurance to my mistakes. Yes, Lance literally brings up personal trauma of Amo's that she did not give him permission to share, only so he can compare himself and go, quote, these men were worse than me, unquote. This random quote-unquote crash out, as he calls it, is him proving their previous points that he is not trustworthy and not someone she could be around. He literally shared personal sexual trauma she experienced with other men to him and him alone, only for him to expose it to thousands of people just to try and paint himself as the quote-unquote lesser evil. The point again flying over his head here, she didn't come forward because he was quote-unquote worse than any of her previous male partners/friends. She came forward because Lance was the one with the massive platform. He had/has access to a lot more vulnerable young women, and that worried her, so she stepped up. And to add, she never made a single post about this man. She made one highlight with the initial allegations, and that's it. Lance literally could not let this go, even though he admitted she was right. Absolutely childish behavior. And here we have Amokat's Instagram showing the highlight. The highlight, for reference, literally the only place he's ever mentioned. Response to Hornsonhalos. Not too long after I had posted my callouts on Lance, victims of his started to roll in and share their stories of him being extremely pushy, targeting teenagers, and short-tempered. After a few days, he finally responded with an array of Insta stories. Hornsonhalos, pointing to the right there. Stories in question, no, he's never taken these down, so you watch them in full here if you so choose. His response starts directly here, the 16th story in particular. TLDR, 1. Lance claims everyone is lying but shows no counter evidence. 2. Lance yells at the camera and repeatedly says everyone involved is stupid, gullible, and deserving of harm. 3. He claims that literally everything shown is out of context and we didn't, quote-unquote, really know what was going on. Although I don't know in what context telling a teenager 6 years younger than you that she's, quote, matured well, unquote, will ever not look creepy. 4. He directly tells his audience to harass and go after the victims who weren't anonymous. I did check in with them and luckily they were not actually contacted. 5. And then he threatened to hurt me and everyone else against him. It's actually pretty concerning just how much he rambled on and on about basically nothing for several minutes. The vast majority of his response is legit impossible to respond to for this reason. Although there are 3 parts in particular I can actually address and directly call him out on as they have some coherence. In a screenshot here, part 2 from the first user who spoke about their history with Halos. These are their recent messages where he essentially admits he was only there for the flirting and sexual favors and didn't want a real relationship with the person. What's worse is he mentions that he's older and that they should focus on themselves. Weird how a sexual relationship with a teenager is fine, but a real friendship isn't because of their age. At the end of this story in particular, and briefly spoken about in another, Lance claims she only accused him of sexual harassment after he blocked her, but this is not true. Hello, I would like to talk about HOH. I'm currently in communication with him, yet I wish to stay anonymous. Yes, of course, I'm all ears. I, 19-year-old F, and him, 24/25-year-old M, developed a friendship and then a sexual relationship. Sometimes being friends with him is emotionally draining. Such as if I don't send nudes, he gets upset or cuts me off. I've been speaking up to him about that, and he's currently trying IG to change. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that he pushes the limits sometimes. As seen here, when the victim first contacted me, she actually wanted to be anonymous and only spoke up because she believed if he was faced with his actions, he tried to improve and change as a person. She was literally still his friend. None of this was for quote-unquote clout or to quote get at him, unquote. She really believed he could change and didn't want to end the friendship despite how he treated her. You can even uncensor my user too, IDC anymore, I'm done with him. It wasn't till here when they have that argument where he admits she's young and only cared about their sexual interactions that she didn't care for her anonymity any longer. So Lance is making up this whole story to paint a victim as clout chasing because he doesn't have anything else to put against her. And a screenshot here. In this story, Lance blatantly confuses this different victim as the exact same girl before, even though you can see he has a screenshot up where I claim it's someone else entirely. Hypnagogic Moon, Moon Murmurous. This is actually more of a string of stories about this victim in particular, but I want to address them as one. Lance, even though their pronouns are plainly in the screen caps he has up, misgenders Hannah repeatedly and does not care. And yeah, I think this is unacceptable for a guy who's claimed to be a trans ally and has even made comics about the trans experience. No, the mistake excuse does not work here. Their pronouns are right there in his face. He also goes on and on about them being a liar, but one part in particular he accidentally admits as truth. He says that they claimed he flirted with them and spoke about their body, and I quote, "Yet there was ample time to block me and confront me and tell me to stop," unquote. So quite plainly, Lance is admitting he tried to get with a 14-year-old and that they're actually at fault because why did they just block him? This is disgusting. Lance states he would have been close to 18 here. He was much the older one. He knew better. Blaming a child for not cutting you off for being creepy and next level insanity. Also, claiming the only reason they're lying is because if they actually had a problem, they would have done something about it. They don't even state that they had a problem with it in the screen cap, just recognizing the age gap between the two of you. Halo's admittance, linking it in case he deletes it, and so y'all know those are his direct words. Response to Royal Sniz 2. For some reason, the crazy hour-long rant on his story wasn't enough, so Lance also decides days later to throw my name into a random post he made about the quote-unquote drama surrounding his name. But I've definitely heard a lot about you too, Sniz. You've got a lot of skeletons hiding in your closet. Some real filthy shit too. You're wild. But I'll be respectful and let you speak up about your truth on your own time. I'd be no better than you if I were to expose or accuse you of shit that's, quote, not true, unquote. So you're on a timer to speak up on what you've been hiding about your history. The truth will set you free, Trent. Your audience deserve to know who the real you is, the same way my audience sees me peel my own layers. The fuck? I like being choked. For reference, I did publicly give throughout my platform Lance full permission to share whatever this said info quote-unquote was, as I genuinely have no idea what he's referring to here. It's alright, I'll be waiting. Hey, this might be a weird ask, but are you still in contact with him? He accused me of having nasty secrets or something. This genuinely confused me as I have no idea what he's talking about. I tried to mention it publicly as said he can reveal whatever it is if he so chooses, but he won't say or mention it again. Pretty sure he made it up, but there's a chance he didn't and an abuser or mine contacted of him. I even asked a victim I had believed still had his contact if they could tell Lance that I want him to be forward with whatever it is. That's a very serious claim to make against someone, especially without explanation, as I can't even defend myself as I don't know what it is. But nothing since has come, quote-unquote, to light. I will, though, briefly mention that in 2021, I was accused of being a quote-unquote pedophile by a child groomer online. She tried to claim that my relationship with my ex, who was 17, was inappropriate because I was an adult, I was 18. I then called her back for grooming multiple minors and deflecting onto me, and she eventually admitted to her own actions in a post. Katakoyaki, Q insisted that we continue being friends privately. I didn't realize right away that this was a problem, as I had been encouraged by peers and older adults to share NSFW art from when I was 15. This is not an excuse for my behavior, but is a reason to why I failed to set boundaries and cut off contact immediately. I have since realized how unsafe, immoral, and inappropriate those kinds of interactions are, and that being exposed to sexual content as a minor is not acceptable and should not be normalized. In October of 2021, circumstances made it so that I was able to have a conversation with Kay as soon as I realized I was lied to and that my words and violent speech had harmed another mental health. I felt immense regret. We both agreed to take down the post about each other, and I wrote and posted a lengthy apology with context on my story. I am the K person to note. Yeah, she does water down her actions here quite a bit, but at least she admits that the claims against me had no merit. So besides this stupid accusation, while proven false, has been following me around for years, there are no quote-unquote skeletons of mine. Response to Royal Sin is 3. Very recently, Lance had returned to Twitter and posted a comic that went very viral overnight. I saw this and shared the Twitter version of my callout on him. He then responded to me directly in the comments, as I did not have him blocked, as that would make it harder to spread my callout around. Halo, replying to Royal Sniz, at first I genuinely wanted to talk shit out with you and keep it respectful like mature adults, but then I had to remember you deadass inserted yourself in a situation you were never involved in, then proceed to weaponize everything I admitted to as I've been working on myself. Women, and yes, you're mad annoying, and I would dead smack the shit out of you because you blew mad shit out of proportion when everything was resolved and situated, but you dragged it. I made no homophobic comments, but y'all internet bitches are real life dumb. And the screenshot that's there, it's not my fault that I'll always have more followers than you no matter what platform you're on, so you can't even victimize yourself like that crying emoji. You're saying that I'm harassing people with smaller accounts when y'all dumb bitches are talking mad shit about being disrespectful first, then it's a problem when I confront you for the shit you're saying about me like I'm not allowed to respond. The same quote-unquote victims you claim came to you either came back to me and we talked shit out and made up on a respectful note or parted ways, or gave you narrative with screenshots out of context because when I fell out with them and they decided to be petty, but you still wouldn't know the full story of my relationship with any of these women, BC, you were never there to begin with. Are you claiming you're quote-unquote improving? Just stop, man. And the screenshot there. Trent at Royal Sniz. It is sexual harassment. Sexually pressuring a woman to do anything she doesn't want is harassment, like stripping. He more or less repeats himself from previous responses. He's changed / trying to change, but simultaneously hasn't actually hurt anyone. Shocker. He seems to have a fundamental misunderstanding of what sexual harassment is and doesn't think pressuring another person into a sexual act they don't want to do is just that. He also threatens me yet again and claims that the girls that came to me actually came back to him, but they were anonymous, so there's no way he'd know who, and that I don't know the full story. Exact same response. Response to homophobic comment. Lance's response to this event in particular was actually made into a story highlight, so the screen caps will be a bit chopped. The whole time, I'm gonna keep the comic up and take the criticism that comes with it, crying emoji, and I'm saying that because some folks are missing the message of how there's people that force certain romantic / sexual ships between two characters of the same sex unprovoked. This reply again only solidifies to me that he doesn't even understand what the word shipping means. All ships are non-canon, that's the point of the term. To put two characters together that aren't together in the said media they came from. Sometimes they do become canon, but oftentimes they're not. Outside of a clearly homophobic lens, I also don't understand the issue with this. Shipping two characters of the same sex doesn't cause any harm or promote anything dangerous. The only difference is the two consenting characters are the same rather than the opposite sex. I didn't address this in the first mention of his homophobic comment, but for a lot of queer fandom, don't just ship characters of the same gender together because it's fun, but also because of the lack of representation. Most people understand that queer rep even now is still very small compared to that of straight coupling within fandom. Not just that, but several show creators have come out about how their producer / director board forced them to either hide or completely remove any and all queerness from their creations. Lance knows this too, by the way, because that's why I contacted him over his comic. Yes, I understand, but again, as I stated before, many people make queer ships because said queerness in said film, movie, game literally doesn't exist at all. Why do you think there's, quote, no chemistry, unquote, between any same gender folks in them? Because they're not allowed to make that happen. I even, in my own infographic, showed two different quotes from Gravity Falls and Legend of... But he didn't care. He never even responded to this explanation. He just wanted me to take down my post. Please, I'm not trying to read paragraphs all day. I understand. I said that in the very first message. I came to you in hopes I could get you to understand where I'm coming from. I was already upset before because even after you got backlash. So no matter what Lance tries to add onto his opinion, as he's stated himself, he just doesn't like when people, quote, ship same-sex characters unprovoked, unquote, and to me and most other queer people is homophobic. Add in the pro-shipper term probably took folks off guard if they don't know the full definition. so I slick failed at trying to kill two birds with one stone, but either way, a fat majority of y'all understood what I was getting at, and that's all I give a fuck about, TBH. Laughing crying cat emoji. It wasn't to talk down on queer folks or be homophobic, but I'll take one on the chin if I got to, cause I ain't a bitch, crying emoji. Second part to the same story, but yeah, he is in fact admitting that he was calling queer shippers pro shippers. He tried to excuse this by going, quote, well, I meant the full definition of pro ship, unquote, which is someone who doesn't care about what is or is not shipped and thinks all forms of shipping is fine. But that still doesn't work. Someone in fandom shipping two people of the same gender isn't a pro shipper. They'd have to be okay with all ship types to be considered a pro shipper. If they like queer shipping but then hate and call out individuals who ship incest or pedophilia, then they're not a pro shipper. Lance just wants to throw queer ships into the same building as actually immoral shipping pairs. I forgot I posted this on Twitter. 112 quotes. The pro shippers is oh to hear there y'all Lamau laughing crying skull skull. Again, here he is calling everyone who disagrees with him a pro shipper. He thinks queer shippers are pro shippers and are just as bad as those who ship incest, zoo, necro, and whatever else he can think of. Even more criticisms. There are thousands of these similar responses. As shown in my original post about his comic, there was criticism from many users who detest pro shipping. He was blatantly pretending folks like me didn't exist to paint a nasty narrative about queer shippers. That is manipulative. Woke scout a trope. Your ass is contradicting. I'm not a pro shipper, but the original comic was demonizing queer ships because it, quote, forced them into relationships, unquote. You cannot be saying, quote, get a grip with reality, unquote, to defend your stupid ass school shooter OC, but cross the line as gay ships. Nico dead dope. Why are you pro fiction now when you made a whole comic about why it was gross? Halo 6 out of 6. After all, it's just fiction. Here's a few new screen caps to show that these exact same critiques are still happening. Response to homophobic comic 2.0. This response is specifically from Lance's newest version of his comic, where instead of implying queer shippers are predators, he implies that they're just oppressing straight folks. Last thing I'll add on about the comics is that I know how most people would react to the hot take of someone, quote, being the reason somebody turns homophobic, unquote, as if people can't develop a dislike for someone / group of people after a series of bad experiences. He's sad face. Yes, some people have internalized homophobia, but some people genuinely do grow to dislike people after a certain bout of times, then eventually associate that person's personality to a designated group. It's literally why stereotypes are developed and people just assume certain groups of people act a certain way, and this goes into race, gender, sexuality, skin tone, body type, zodiacs, living environments, and some more shit. So it shouldn't seem unlikely that there's people in fandoms who've dealt with toxic people in their respective communities and later assume that everyone else acts like that if they notice patterns. It can't be dismissed that others' ignorance can breed more ignorance, and they dismiss their own behavior by blaming the next person for not being mindful of their own perspective, so this. All of these are just excuses. For one, the folks complaining weren't claiming that people can't become bigoted over bad interactions with some queer folks, just that there is no excuse for their bigotry. Even if that explains why someone is a homophobe, it doesn't excuse that their homophobia, therefore the explanation ultimately doesn't matter. Two, he's getting the term, quote, internalized homophobic, unquote, mixed up here. Internalized homophobia is a queer-only experience. It's when a queer person hates themselves / their own queerness. This can lead to outwardly hate, but not always, and is being inappropriately used here. At least it looks that way. 3, Lance seems to misunderstand the history behind stereotypes as well. While it is true that some stereotypes are built off of misunderstandings, this is not the main reason most exist. They are in fact orchestrated by hate groups purposely to dehumanize the groups they want to keep rights from. One of these Lance actually spread around himself with his first comic. The idea that LGBT individuals are predators. In the 1960s, several major anti-LGBT groups spent thousands on their hate campaigns, including real ads, to push the idea that queer people were grooming kids and preying on innocent straight folks. As a mother, I know that homosexuals cannot biologically reproduce children, therefore they must recruit our children. Anita Bryant. They were deathly afraid of homosexuality being legalized, so these campaigns were their best bet. None of this is accidental or due to some silly misunderstanding. It was created. This response of his just further proves to me that Lance shouldn't be speaking on these topics, as he regularly misunderstands and misinterprets them within his comics, sometimes on purpose too. Response to Shooter comic. So I'm still getting word that people genuinely have an issue with me being depicted as a wizard, and I really don't get it. What's the problem? I love being a wizard. Why are you mad that I killed those monsters in a short story when you're fully aware that I'm a fictional character that doesn't even exist? Look at how they treated me. I'm the victim here. This part in particular is really silly, as later on he claims this character is supposed to be a villain but keeps painting him as a victim who's in the right for killing children. Are you telling me that every artist and creator are glorifying acts of violence shown as a concept in a fictional setting? Would you show this much concern if the weapon of choice and setting was different when there's so many characters that do way worse on greater scales? Sweeping by a friend. This is a serial killer. I'm killer meh. Cam, you're glorifying serial killers in your movie. Cancel him. No, they aren't. You're glorifying school shootings because you are painting your character as in the right, and that his string of murders are justified because they were, quote, bad people, unquote. You, in fact, literally do just this at the beginning of your response. There's a huge difference between simply having villain characters and glorifying/justifying the violence they cause. There is no foil to his character, no police force, no repercussions, no punishment. Lance created a shooter character for fun because he thinks it's cool, but knows that's an insensitive thing to do, so instead he excuses his own actions and deflects blame like he always does. Oh, wait, you said it's different because they have a cool character design, they have a voice you like? See, what I mean by deflecting blame, he's making a huge assumption here by claiming all his critics are the quote-unquote real hypocrites. This is an ad hominem fallacy. He is attacking the character of his critics instead of actually defending his stances. Also, those characters are not glorified in the story. The writers are clearly paint them as bad people whose actions are deplorable and are usually defeated by the hero. This is 101 storytelling, Lance. Right, you said you sexualize them because you find them attractive and would let them assault you if they were real. Honestly, I wonder why. Like, who is he speaking to here? This is just another fallacy argument. Yes, there are some people who think this, but I'm pretty sure many of his critics also don't hold these opinions, so generalizing thousands of people is really silly. Also, I'm starting to think Lance doesn't actually watch anything he talks about because Venom isn't a villain, at least not in the films where this image is from. He's an anti-hero that sacrifices his own life for his friend and to save the planet. Spoilers, I know, but I think it's genuinely insane to throw in a character like that next to Rapist number 1 and number 2. If the actions of a villain make you feel uneasy, the creator did a great job making a bad villain. Does it make you uncomfortable because it's realistic? Isn't that the point of a well-written villain, and not just because they're a quote-unquote menace or quote-unquote crash out? Well, Lance's character isn't realistic. There are little to no cases of school shooters walking away from their crimes with no punishment and then tag teaming with a serial killer for fun. School shooters being the victim of bullying isn't exactly as common as you think either. Many were actually perpetrators before they even killed anyone. There are actual studies that have proved many shooters are actually bigots who killed because they felt justified to in their bigotry or were violent themselves. Education Law Center, we must address racist violence, school shootings, trigger warning, Journal of American Academy of Psychology, The Mind of the Mass School Shooter, CNN, structural racism may contribute to mass shootings, study says, CNN. Reuters, overview of recent U.S. mass shootings motivated by hate, Bradley United, Hate Crimes and Gun Violence, National Institute of Health, NIH, Racial and Mental Illness, Stereotypes, and Discrimination. For a guy so obsessed with shooters, he sure knows little about them. It's hard to even formulate a response to these because they're just so ridiculous. None of these arguments actually work when you put them up to said material he's comparing them to. Response to Shooter Comic 2. I thought you guys liked dark humor and graphic themes, but now it's going quote-unquote too far all because you say so? Where's the logic in that part? Whoa, put a trigger warning on that apple, you jerk. Why? Oh, neat. Here we go again with the ad hominem fallacy. I personally never had a LiveLeak account, nor did I ever use this site, so I and many other critics of his like me wouldn't understand why he's bringing this up, as we did not participate in this. He even throws a jab at folks who criticize his older comics for not having trigger warning by depicting those as who ask for them as silly and ridiculous, which is insane. Let female villains be villains without being horny/sexualizing them. You cannot fix her, and she is not your mommy. This has nothing to do with the criticism against him, and he's again throwing this in to portray his critics as gross or creepy. And again, he threw in 2 anti-hero characters within a list of very obvious villains. Pink Diamond and Maleficent are not the villains of their stories. They can be considered antagonists, which is not the same thing, but they are very clearly written to be obstacles of sorts to the other characters rather than villains actively trying to harm people because they're quote-unquote evil. For a guy who runs his platform on stories about complex situations and people, he really loves to paint them all under one evil brush whenever he's criticized in any way. Even if it's by accident, he does this to 3 separate times, and it's annoying. After all, it's just fiction. Get a grip with reality. This image in particular has pissed a lot of people off, and for good reason. It's hypocritical. Lance is playing the "it's just fiction" card, but he himself has also claimed that fiction does affect reality and that fictional ships he doesn't like are problematic. Why is glorifying murder and abuse okay, but not incest or pedophilia? Of course, I believe rampant glorification of any above can cause harm, but Lance picking and choosing which matters whenever he feels like it just breaks apart his whole argument and makes his stances on these topics super fickle. Rules for thee and not for me all over again. Response to trigger warnings. Trigger warnings, topics on suicide, self-harm, disturbing imagery. I give you your little ass trigger warning, so are you gonna keep on swiping or what? I want to note that Lance wrote up this over a DM he received from someone that I personally agree with him on being a bit too sensitive, as it seems like for the most part he does tag his posts now, but even then he's still quite jarring with how he starts, each one making TW pointless if you're just casually scrolling down his page. And zooming in here, I think I got groomed and raped by my piano teacher. Harper, this is harder than I thought. Did I make you come? How I draw myself, how I look. Just about any random person, including minors, which many do follow him, can randomly stumble upon these titles with no warnings. And Lance even then places TWs in his captions begrudgingly. Azhero, am I tweaking? The fuck would this comic need a trigger warning for? Lime, disturbing imagery, blood, depictions of death. Azhero, are you dead ass? When asked by multiple people on Twitter to put TWs over his obviously bloody posts about murder and shootings, he couldn't understand why these things need triggered folks and was upset with this. And seeing as he makes fun of trigger warnings to this day, i.e. when addressing his shooter comic controversy, in my opinion, I believe he only slaps them up there because he'll get criticism if not. And I have more evidence to this claim. Hails on horns. I ain't gonna lie, y'all, I'm gonna start making controversial reels to get people mad and arguing about mundane bullshit. I need the views and engagement. Broken heart emoji, hashtag sellout, hashtag money over friends, hashtag chronically online. He has publicly confessed that his comics are made for engagement and controversial on purpose. This alone should prove he can never be trusted when it comes to caring about people's mental health and personal issues, but this isn't all. Response to Twitter backlash. Halo, I'll even out these numbers soon. Thanks for the engagement, honestly. Hashtag satire, hashtag ragebait, hashtag crashout, hashtag trolling, hashtag chronically online, hashtag you're useless IRL. When he received backlash for his SA comic, specifically because he himself has sexually harassed women, this was his initial response to congratulate everyone for giving him attention. This man wrote up a comic about rape, then publicly stated how happy he was that a post on such a horrific topic got him many views and new followers. He even throws in the hashtag ragebait and satire for no reason. Even if this somehow isn't about the post that went viral, this is still a really insensitive thing to say. He doesn't actually care about anyone, just the attention. I wish that was all too, but it's not. He wrote a follow-up. Halo, hot take, mentally ill people don't deserve to have access to the internet and social media, but instead should be granted direct access to professional help so they aren't in mass groups of echo chambers to enable each other's toxic and problematic behaviors that solve shit for them. Quote, mentally ill people don't deserve access to the internet, unquote. Alright, now we have him being straight up ableist, so forget all the comics he made about how much he cares about the mentally unwell. Guess those were all a lie. Why did he write this, you may ask? Because he was being called out for his treatment of women. Yeah, that's what caused this crash out. You and I and anyone else who doesn't like him is mentally ill for daring not to do so. Response to Predator allegations. This is his most recent general response to the allegations against him, August 2025. It's pretty long, and most of it is an apology without an apology. Essentially, what he does is go, "I'm sorry you feel that way," rather than actually admit that he's harmed any women. It's honestly pretty similar to all the other responses, but the difference here is that he is actually upfront about the minors he sexted and apologizes for doing so. Another girl I met through Google Plus who lives in Germany named Noah Meizu at human.rodent on Instagram came out about us talking on Snap with screenshots they sent to Trent. From the conversations that were shown, I was 18 during that summer of 2018 we spoke. As I mentioned, going to community college that year and them entering 7th grade at 14. Due to time zones with them in Germany and me in the US, we didn't speak consistently, but we were always on good terms when we talked. I can't defend my behavior and how I spoke with them, since I spoke to them flirtatiously when giving compliments, or spoke to them affectionately as someone I cared for and joked with, so I hold myself accountable for interacting with them that way. I had and apologized to you, Noah, for being inappropriate and all I've done that had made you uncomfortable when we talked. This one is about the 14-year-old he spoke with when he was 18. Zenji was the last person amongst those that came out about me, and around July 21st of this year, he and I had a one-on-one conversation in DMs to address the time we spoke last year when I was 24 going on 25, and they were 17 in late 2024 before their birthday in December when they turned 18. Once we spoke and addressed everything, I personally apologized to him for interacting with them the way I did and asked him how he felt about it all mentally and emotionally. And we made up and kept it cordial. Out of respect for their privacy, Zenji is free to show our full conversation regarding what we spoke on, and I hold myself accountable for my actions, my mistakes, and my behavior during the conversations we had last year. And this one is about the 17-year-old he spoke with when he was 24. As you can tell, he is extremely vague with both, as is his apology. He asked these people for nude photos of their bodies when they were under 18, which is legally considered CSM in every state in the US and in most other countries as well. It's also concerning that he mentions them, quote, leaving things off on good terms, unquote, which, as I feared, means Lance doesn't understand even now that minors cannot consent. Them having nice and kind and him the same isn't consent, as they legally under that age and mentally too. Bringing up how well his relationship with them was does not negate the harm he caused being an adult with power and more maturity than said minors. This response has also directly led to a few of his followers contacting me actually defending his predatory actions. This is why watering down serious situations harms victims. He should have been more clear on what he did and how it was wrong, especially legally, but he wasn't. Although it at least confirms to everyone that those victims weren't lying and he did act inappropriately with them, he was an adult. General responses. These will be the responses of his that aren't exactly tied to one specific critique he's gotten and are more vague in their vitriol. Although I will explain what I personally believe he is speaking about under each post for context. Halos and Horns, what's wrong with you and all these comics you've been posting? Why are you doing this to yourself? You look bad. It's simply because I don't care what y'all say to me. I don't know any of y'all. Excuse me, you made a public post, so I had the right to give my public opinion. I'm right. I don't know y'all outside this app, and even if I did, I'd probably punch you in the mouth if you came up to me just to press me about this dumb social media bullshit. You're so violent. Even though you took a break offline, you clearly haven't changed. Since we still antagonize you about your actions and posts, you're disgusting. There's people talking mad shit about me and have the nastiest secrets they vowed to take to the grave, yet they finally feel like their voices matter to judge a man they never knew to begin with. Even if you admitted to all this fucked up shit, all our backlash and projections is justified. This response seems to be referencing some comics of his where he outright admitted to some of his heinous actions and is upset with the backlash. Instead of curating his comment section or responding in a story, he creates posts over almost every time he's spoken about negatively by others. And while I believe replying to criticism even with posts of your own is valid, Lance never really has any well thought out replies. They usually consist of "no you," "I'm going to hurt you," "I don't care, you're just a number/stranger to me," or all three. These, of course, are poor counters and don't actually disprove the criticism thrown his way, only to paint his critics as no different. And even if they were, that doesn't make their criticism suddenly invalid. I forget most of these people came to me are already mentally ill, depressed, or having some type of attachment issues before they met me, yet I believe I'm capable of helping them effectively by my own will. Again, another no use situation, which doesn't take away that he has harmed other people. Consumer, they made a school shooter, let's cancel them right now and feed them regret. He attempted to make a post about how mean the internet is, but fumbled midway through and accidentally revealed he's just speaking about himself here, and I already went over in length as to why his shooter comic was poorly written and insensitive, so there's not much to add. As if I'm gonna keep bitching and complaining about them so they'll know how much I hate them. Again, he's just vaguely speaking about himself. The reason these posts are manipulative is because he is being extremely inexplicit to push the narrative that everyone speaking up against him are just big old meanies bullying poor innocent Lance. He's trying to appeal to people's sympathy here while keeping his audience in the dark about why these said criticisms are happening. It's annoying. You see this right here? This is one person. Hello. Now, this one person is like you, a member of society, a human being to this very giant world we call Earth. This one person builds a platform on social media, developing a following full of many people, supporters, lurkers, trolls, or other people ready to say anything they want because the internet is a playground for all types of social creatures to thrive in. Whoa. There's one person that doesn't like this one person with their platform and will never know why, but their actions and words reach out to this one person they dislike, expressing their self-hate through ignorance, insecurity, and disrespect. Soon, this one person began to see a wave of negative comments sent by many different people. They were all one person, banded in unison just to come together to attack and harass one person. So this one person went offline. Permanently. Yes, this does sound exactly like you think, a self-harm threat. Especially if you criticize him, he might harm himself and it would be your fault. Another nasty post in the sea of, quote, I'm going to manipulate my audience into feeling bad for me, unquote, content of his, that really pisses me off. This is childish behavior. He claims he's going to hurt himself if others keep speaking about him, but simultaneously also threatens to hurt others and waters down the actions he committed towards women. Are you dangerous? No, I don't think so. I know I get mad. I'm scary and aggressive sometimes. I know I make them so nervous they're afraid to talk to me. I don't think it's right for me to try answering that question. I've hurt many. I'm good at what I do. He is once again admitting he's hurt people point blank. That's it. I'd say he's being honest here, but I wouldn't be surprised if weeks from now he'd then deny that he hurt anyone. Why do you vent so much through your art and stories? I'm looking for pity and sympathy because I'm a bad person seeking validation and forgiveness from strangers, my audience. They can relate, but their guilt is quiet. They understand, but they want what's best for me. I feel safe. I'm good at what I do. Similar things spoken here, he admits he does this because he's a bad person that wants pity from strangers. Remember, he said this, not me. I say this because, like he has before, he will claim I'm, quote, taking this out of context, unquote, or, quote, painting him negatively, unquote. Would you like to talk like that when you're upset? I'm short-tempered, I hate feeling misunderstood, I'm childish when things don't go my way, so I'll lash out or stonewall. Another similar confession. Are you possessive? I like to brand people, I love to write my name on their bodies, they love to feel owned, and I love to own them. It's a mutual agreement, but they're free to do whatever they like. They know where home is. This is a misogynist way of viewing women. He thinks of women as objects, and he's not safe to be around. He even tries to immediately excuse this by claiming that, quote, they consented to it, unquote, as if that suddenly makes his misogyny okay, and as the victims have explained, it isn't even true. Since Lance decided to do something extremely stupid, I'll be addressing it here. Lance tried to do his own quote-unquote call-out of sorts on one of the victims. I'm still a bit confused by what he was trying to do because he completely ignored the claim that he was sexually inappropriate with them as a minor and goes straight to the harassment claim, which he also confuses. Either way, he tried to prove himself by pretty much doxing not just the victim, but everyone else within the group chats he had access to. While scrolling through these chats, photos of strangers and their family members, full legal names, extremely personal conversations, personal emails, and more is revealed. There was absolutely no reason to do this. Not only was it extremely embarrassing for the victims, folks completely unrelated to the situation had to get involved and directly contact Lance to ask him to take this call out down. What I'll be showing will be heavily censored due to the nature of what I'm sharing, but remember, he didn't do this, he didn't care. Why? Destiny, DS, Hannah, Annie Rose, Art Dude, Beep Beep Meow. This guy? Oh, word, my fault, Mike. I ain't expect Hannah to lie on me the way she did, so I was just trying to be thorough with everything seen and mentioned. Hannah is Moon, by the way. The first victim, he again is misgendering them here. This is like the 10th time. This screenshot is actually from one of the uninvolved people he showed the personal information of. They even sent him a screenshot of his own call out where all their personal emails are shown, and one of them has their IRL face as an icon. We slowly lost touch and broke up. Reese would call me a whore and a thought, mostly whore, and he'd blast Instagram with rants on me, which is why I deleted Insta. Does that even add up? Begging someone to send nudes and retaliate like that? The fuck kind of sick, low shit is that? Redacted, he has anger issues. He'd beg me for nudes when he was horny. He'd lash out at me sometimes. Redacted, Hannah, Reese, Short, Mackenzie Bone, Art Dude, Mikey T, Beep Beep Meow, Benny Bean, Mother Bean, Danica Isola, Fox, Last Perk, AZ Hero Legend at gmail.com. Redacted, Thanos Car. Redacted, what is up my food, dude? Fuck. Redacted, there unfortunately was a lot more shown, but I couldn't grab most of it due to him deleting it a few hours after the backlash. Also, some of the images are people venting about trauma and abuse, so I don't think it's appropriate for me to even show them censored. Not only did this prove absolutely nothing, it led to Mikey getting Lance to admit he did in fact share porn on this private Instagram of his, where he added several minors. Screenshot from Insta there. Need more fan signs in my life. This account he posted anyway, spam, and this isn't the Snapchat one I'm talking about, but his spam, which he originally just posted memes on and then posted porn. The accusation. Lance Eboigbe, Hannah, quote-unquote, lying on you isn't an excuse. You should know better than that. For the record, I also remember you posting porn on your Snap back in high school, but I think you have more pressing matters to worry about. Lance, why is quote-unquote lying in quotations like she didn't lie? And I'm not making this response in the first place. For the record, I also remember you posting porn on your Snap back in high school. More. Excuse me for the shit I posted back then when I was younger. I really wouldn't have included folks. Again with the misgendering. As you can see, he apologizes, not because he recognizes it's inappropriate, but only because it came back to, quote, bite him in the ass, unquote. He feels no remorse for spamming porn for minors to see. And here are some more screenshots that I'm just going to scroll past. And here's evidence that the account did indeed have porn on it. So that is his most up-to-date reply to backlash. Conclusion. Because this has been a long repeated process with Lance, there's nothing I really care to ask from the guy. If he does apologize, there's a huge chance he'll take it back a week later and re-upload everything like he has in the past. And even then, I don't care to, nor is it my responsibility / place to accept his apology. I'm not one of his victims, just someone who's been in their shoes. This document purely exists to inform and dismantle the disinformation that's been widely spread about this man and his actions. Anything that isn't directly addressed within this document hasn't been confirmed, and you shouldn't blindly spread it around. I want Lance to be held accountable for the things he actually has done. I don't think Lance should have a platform, and that's my final opinion. He's abused and misused it over and over again, and regularly targeted fans for either harassment or potential sexual encounters. He has admitted he sees his audience as digits, and he likes to use them. Someone like this should not have a large platform. Hornsonhalos, 7 following. These are all accounts either fully or partly owned by Lance. To my knowledge, other platforms usually use a variation of Hornsonhalos or Azhero. If you have anything you'd like to add, or if you believe you might be a victim of Hornsonhalos, please contact me, this email address, or DM the Royal Niz Twitter account, although claims with photo evidence will be prioritized. And that was the entirety of Hornsonhalos / Azhero document.